Welcome to the Philosophy and Epochs channel, your guide to the world of history, philosophy, and cultural studies. When we hear the words Golden Age of Athens, we picture the splendor and greatness of ancient Greek civilization. This was a time when Athens became the center of cultural, intellectual, and political development, leaving an invaluable legacy for future generations. But what made this period so significant? Why did Athens reach the peak of its power at this particular moment? And most importantly, how did democracy emerge in this land, changing the course of world history? If you're curious to learn more, stay with us. We're about to embark on a fascinating journey into the world of ancient Athens and the birth of democracy. To understand the birth of democracy, we need to go back a few centuries. In the 8th and 7th centuries BCE, ancient Athens, located on the shores of the Aegean Sea, was one of the most powerful and culturally advanced city-states of ancient Greece. Before the Golden Age of Athens, several important historical stages shaped the city. After the fall of the Mycenaean civilization and during the Dark Ages, Athens began to recover and develop in the 7th and 6th centuries BCE. Along this path, they faced various social and political challenges, including inequality, tension between the aristocracy and the masses, and external threats from other Greek city-states and the Persian Empire. Athens was a typical Greek polis with its own aristocrats who controlled power and resources. These noble families often decided the fate of the city, frequently ignoring the interests of the common people, the demos. But as tensions between the rich and the poor grew, it led to political crises and instability. One of the first steps toward democratizing society was the emergence of reformers who sought to reduce the power of the aristocracy and expand citizens' participation in governance. In the 6th century BCE, Solon, an Athenian statesman, carried out a series of reforms that laid the groundwork for future democracy. While he wasn't a democrat in the modern sense, his reforms were a crucial step toward creating a fairer society. He abolished debt slavery, freed those enslaved due to debt, and established a court system where all citizens could participate in decision-making. However, despite the importance of Solon's reforms, societal tensions did not disappear. Power remained in the hands of the few. A few decades after Solon's reforms, Athens came under the rule of tyrants. The true revolution happened later, in the mid-5th century BCE, when Athens faced the threat from the Persian Empire. The need for societal unity and mobilization of resources led to radical changes in the political system. After Solon, despite his efforts, Athens once again fell under the control of a tyrant. Pisistratus, who ruled in the mid-6th century BCE, initially seized power by force but soon gained popular support due to his policies aimed at improving the lives of ordinary citizens. He strengthened the economy, supported the development of the arts, and even began constructing monumental temples. Although Pisistratus was an autocrat, his rule played a crucial role in the further development of Athens, laying the foundation for future democratic reforms. But you might wonder, why then was Pisistratus considered a tyrant? Pisistratus was called a tyrant not because of cruelty or disrespect for the people, but because of the nature of his rule, which did not align with the democratic principles of the time. In the ancient Greek context, the term tyrant had a different meaning than it does today. It referred to a ruler who came to power not through legal or traditional mechanisms, like elections or inheritance, but by seizing power through force or manipulation. Reasons why Pisistratus was considered a tyrant. 1. Method of gaining power. Pisistratus seized power in Athens 3 times using different methods, including military force and political intrigue. Although some of his actions were supported by a portion of the population, the process of taking power was violent and violated established traditions. 2. Autocratic rule. Unlike a democratic system where power is distributed among various bodies and leaders, Pisistratus concentrated all power in his own hands. Although he maintained democratic institutions such as the assembly, they were effectively under his control. 3. Consolidation of personal power. Pisistratus took various measures to strengthen his position, including creating a personal guard and eliminating political opponents. He aimed to retain power for himself and pass it on to his heirs, which contradicted democratic ideals. 4. Motives for ruling. Despite his social and economic reforms that indeed improved the lives of many Athenians, Pisistratus was primarily driven by personal interests and a desire to retain power. His reforms, while beneficial to the people, served to bolster his authority and legitimize his rule. Popular support. Pisistratus's popular support can be attributed to his policies aimed at improving the lives of ordinary people. He reduced taxes, supported farmers, and initiated large public works projects that provided jobs. However, despite these efforts, his rule still violated principles of equality and citizen participation in governance. Thus, Pisistratus was considered a tyrant, not because of cruelty or disregard for the people's interests, but because he seized power and ruled autocratically, which contradicted the democratic and aristocratic norms of his time. After the death of Pisistratus and his sons, Athens plunged into political chaos once again. But out of this chaos, in 508 BCE, Cleisthenes emerged on the historical stage, often called the father of Athenian democracy. In 508-507 BCE, Cleisthenes, an Athenian reformer, implemented a series of radical changes that can be considered the birth of direct democracy. Cleisthenes sought to weaken the influence of the aristocracy and give more power to the broader masses of citizens. Cleisthenes' key reforms included: 1. Reorganizing citizens based on geographical regions. He divided Athens into 10 dems, new administrative units based on geography rather than kinship or aristocratic lineage. This helped reduce the influence of old aristocratic families and increase the representation of various social groups. 2. Establishing the Council of 500. To manage daily affairs and prepare issues for the People's Assembly, the Council of 500 was created, composed of representatives from each dem. This council provided preparatory work for democratic processes. 3. Introducing direct citizen participation in governance. All citizens had the right and duty to participate in the People's Assembly, ecclesia, where they could discuss and vote on crucial political issues, laws, and military matters. These reforms significantly expanded citizens' political participation and laid the foundation for a democracy based on equality, freedom, and direct involvement. However, democracy as we know it flourished during the era of Pericles in the 5th century BCE. Pericles, a charismatic leader and strategist, was elected to the position of strategos, military commander, over 30 times, allowing him to implement important reforms and strengthen the democratic system. He introduced pay for participation in courts and assemblies, enabling even the poorest citizens to participate in politics. During this time, Athens transformed into the cultural and intellectual center of the ancient world. Magnificent temples like the Parthenon were built, which still stands as a symbol of ancient Greece. At the same time, philosophy and the arts flourished. Socrates, Plato, and the tragedies of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides became pinnacles of Greek culture. How did Athenian democracy work? Unlike modern representative systems, Athenian democracy was direct. Citizens themselves took part in making important decisions at the people's assemblies, ecclesia, where anyone could speak and vote. Judicial functions were performed by courts where judges were ordinary citizens chosen by lot. The Council of 500 prepared the agenda for assemblies, and officials were also chosen by lot, which eliminated the possibility of power abuse. And while not all residents of Athens had citizen rights, slaves, women, and medics or foreigners were excluded. The system allowed a large number of people to participate in governance. Athenian democracy was based on several key principles. 1. Equality before the law. All citizens had equal rights and responsibilities. 2. Direct participation. Citizens made decisions themselves, not through elected representatives. 3. Freedom of speech and discussion. Important issues were debated in people's assemblies, and every citizen could express their opinion. 4. No hereditary offices. All state positions were open to all citizens, regardless of origin. These principles had a profound impact on subsequent forms of government and political systems. Many modern democracies draw inspiration from the Athenian experience, valuing direct citizen participation, equality, and freedom of speech. However, despite its achievements, Athenian democracy could not cope with external and internal challenges. The Peloponnesian War, which lasted nearly 30 years, drained Athens' resources and led to its defeat by Sparta. Subsequently, Athens never regained its former power, and the democratic system gradually fell into decline. Nevertheless, the legacy of Athenian democracy lives on today. The ideas born in Athens inspired thinkers and politicians of future eras, from Roman republicans to Enlightenment figures. The Golden Age of Athens was a time when a small city-state not only reached the peak of its power, but also changed the world by creating a system that remains an ideal for many nations today. The democracy born in Athens became a symbol of freedom and justice, and its principles continue to shape political systems around the world. The Golden Age of Athens demonstrated that democracy is not just a form of government, but also a way of organizing society that can lead to cultural and intellectual flourishing. And while Athenian democracy was far from perfect, it was the first experiment that proved that people can govern their own state, creating history. The Golden Age of Athens is a vivid example of how a society can evolve, overcoming social and political obstacles on the path to a more just and equitable system of governance. The birth of democracy in Athens is not just a historical fact, but also an inspiration for us today, a reminder of the importance of every citizen's participation in the life of society. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any new fascinating stories from human history. See you next time.